Hey YouTubers, it's April the 5th, 2024. Welcome to the Bubba Continuum. I know it's been a while. I said I was going to put up a video about restaurants that I liked in Singapore, and I failed to do so. My wife arrived in the country several months ago, and it's been fantastic. You know, we've been just enjoying each other's company. I've been introducing her to American culture, barbecue restaurants, you know, where to get good pizza. I mean, everything about the United States that I could think of, I've been telling her about. I'm sorry that I sound like Robert Kennedy. I'm getting over some kind of cold. It's really been gross. So anyway, we've been having a great time, and we also had a trip. We had to go to Mexico. My wife, due to the fact that my wife is from Africa and has been impecunious for most of her life, she has had some dental issues, and I thought all she needed was an implant. It turned out she had all sorts of stuff going on in there. And it turns out that Cancun is a fantastic place to get dental work done, because they will charge you somewhere between 15% and 50% as much as they would in America, and they're really good. It's not like they're just making it up as they go. They have big clinics with all sorts of fancy equipment in them, and they're very professional. I am more impressed with them than I am with American dentists. I hope my American dentist never sees this, but it's the truth. They have, at the clinic where we went, they had oral surgeons who were in the building all the time, in the office. And they had machinery there that I've never seen in a dentist's office. They had a big 3D scan machine, and they gave her a 3D scan of her head for nothing. And it turned out she needed 3 impacted wisdom teeth pulled out, and one of them was infected, and she needed some crowns. And she needed a thing called a sinus lift, because your sinuses are above your teeth. And if you need a dental implant, you got to have some bone to stick them into. And if the bone between your sinus and your tooth is not thick enough, they have to stick some junk in there, and your body eventually bonds to it, and you get a thick place in your bone, and they can screw the thing into it. So we thought we were going for 3 days, and we were there for a week. I have a friend who does this all the time. He's had some horrible problems with his teeth. He's been going for years, and he was staying with us, and he happened to have some kind of tooth problem, which is not related to his Mexican treatment. It was, something they had not worked on yet. One of his teeth just fell apart, and he needed to go to Cancun, and he said, "You should go with me," and so we went. So that's one of the things we've been up to. Cancun is an interesting place. I got my Cancun shirt. This is my Cancun hat. No, this is my Florida hat. Interesting place. People were very nice. A pleasant place to spend a weekend. I would never go back except for dental stuff, though, because it's basically a place for people who like to get drunk and have sex with strangers. So, and if you like the beach, if you like lying on the beach with nothing in your head, frying your skin, if you can stand that kind of boredom, then Cancun is for you. But anyway, the people were very nice, and it was overall a pleasant experience. It's just not a deep experience. It's not like going to Rome or Paris. I'll put it that way. It's about like going to Miami, except everything's cheaper. So interesting thing. If you need dental work, you might want to check into this. There's a place called Cancun Dental Specialist. There's a bunch of others. And you can find all kinds of testimonies on the web, and you can check with people who've had work done there. It's something to look into. A friend of mine knew a lady who needed $26,000 worth of work done, and she got out of this place for like $6,000. So if I ever have a real problem in my mouth, that's where I'm going. I'm afraid I'm gonna have to tell my dentist about this, because my dentist and I talk, and he knows my wife has been on her way to America, and he's been expecting me to bring her in because he knows she needs an implant, and I have to tell him that she got the implant and a bunch of other stuff somewhere else. And I hope he's not angry. I hope he doesn't cut me off as a patient. But if he does, there's a dentist down the street, and business is business. Something you always got to remember in life. He's a nice guy, but he's not so nice that I'm willing to give him an extra $7,000 for work that may not be as good. I mean, maybe he's great. Maybe he's a fantastic implant specialist. Maybe he does that stuff all the time. But if you think about it, your average dentist puts in what, 2 implants a week maybe, and at this place in Cancun, you got people who are putting in several a day, and the oral surgeon's right there. It's not just dentists; it's oral surgeons, and they took great care of us with prescriptions and things like that. I had my wisdom teeth out. I only had 2 wisdom teeth, which may say something about my intelligence, but I only had 2 wisdom teeth, and they pulled them out just to make sure they didn't cause any trouble. And when they pulled my wisdom teeth out, they gave me a prescription for Vicodin, and they told me, happy trails, good luck. So when my wife got her procedures done, they gave her Tramadol, which is a very good painkiller. They gave her something called Ketorolac. which is another painkiller. They gave her azithromycin. They gave her that even before she got the work done to kill the infection in her tooth. They gave her a special mouthwash, a bunch of instructions, you know. So I've never seen an American, I've been to a number of American dentists because I'm old, and I've never seen treatment that thorough. I was really impressed. So that's what we've been up to. We've just been enjoying life. And I guess what I'm going to do, I'm going to, just because I said I would do it, it doesn't matter. Nobody watches this channel anyway, so I can do whatever I want. I'm going to talk about restaurants in Singapore that we liked because I said I would. So first of all, Singapore, the food's not as good as Hong Kong. If you really want good food in the Far East, go to Hong Kong. And why am I saying that? Because I'm not an expert on the Far East. Maybe there's good food every place else. I don't know. Maybe the food's great in Taiwan. Probably is. But I know it's good in Hong Kong. It's really good. Everywhere you go, the food is good. It doesn't matter where it is. I mean, it seemed like you couldn't find bad food in Hong Kong. Especially Mr. Key's roasted goose, which you must try. Singapore is a little different. It's hit or miss. Singapore has a lot of American restaurants, American chains, and my wife wanted to try those because last time we went to Singapore, she hadn't been here yet, and she wanted to try American culture. So we went to a number of those. What I found was the fast food joints over there, they have Shake Shack, they have McDonald's, they have Five Guys, they probably have Burger King. They do have Burger King. We didn't try Burger King. But the general rule with the American fast food over there was that it was somewhat better than it is here because they're, you know, Singaporeans have it together. Americans don't have the greatest work ethic. And Singaporeans are like, you know, they're like the Swiss of the Far East. So they did a very nice job with that. You can't get decaffeinated coffee, which is horrible because I can't drink decaf. I can't drink coffee with caffeine in it. But other than that, it was really nice, and I was amazed at how nice the Five Guys was. So the fast food, American fast food, is nice. On the high end, we went to 2 American-style steakhouses. Ruth's Chris was just like it is in America. If you like Ruth's Chris here, you'll like it there, except you'll pay a little more because all the meat comes from Australia. Not much to say there. We also went to Lowry's Prime Rib, and this place, I don't know what it's like in America. A friend of mine recommended it to me in America, and we went there for Thanksgiving. We were in Singapore on Thanksgiving, and we wanted to have a special meal, so we went to Lowry's Prime Rib, and it was nasty. It was just not good. The prime rib was simultaneously tough and a little too rare, and excuse me, the side dishes were, I mean, it was like frozen peas and mashed potatoes that were, I won't say they came out of a box, but they just weren't very good. I mean, you don't go to a high-end steakhouse and say, oh, I'll have mashed potatoes and frozen peas. So the creme brulee was runny. You could pick it up and pour it out of the dish. Just not a great place. So don't go to Lowry's. I think our final effort at trying to get American style food was a place called Decker Barbecue, and this place is run by an Australian, and they make all these grandiose claims. They say, oh, if you want to come to Decker Barbecue, boy, you better get a reservation because we're so busy. And they talk about, they say, hey, wouldn't it make sense for us to bring in our oak from Texas to smoke our meat and stuff like this, but dubious claims. I mean, in one place they say we do bring our oak in from Texas, and another place they say, wouldn't it make sense? Which, you know, tells me they're first of all, they're lying. Oak grows all over China. Okay, China is very close to Singapore. I mean, compared to Texas, which is 14,000 miles away, they're not bringing oak in from Texas, and oak isn't the best wood to smoke with anyway. So they're basically full of it. These people are full of it. We went there, and we ordered some kind of feast for two or something they called it. It was a selection of various types of barbecue meats like pulled pork and ribs and something else, I believe. There's no point in really recalling exactly what they gave us because it was all bad. The ribs, they tasted like they were boiled and then covered with some kind of watered down barbecue sauce and Montreal steak seasoning. They were just revolting. And nothing was good. The sides were bad. And this was supposed to be a meal for two, and they gave us tiny side dishes. And there was almost no one there. The place was like 1/3, 1/4 full. They made all this fuss about getting a reservation, and we were so determined to get there on time and not lose our reservation. And we got there, and the place was dead. And I complained about this place on the internet, and they called me a racist, and all sorts of crazy stuff. What I said was, it wasn't like they had actually made barbecue. It was like they showed a Chinese chef a picture of barbecue and said, do your best, you know. And they said, that made me a big racist and all that, and it's horrible. I mean, I wrote in my review, I said, I'm a Southerner. I've got a beautiful stainless steel smoker of my own. I make ribs all the time. I know what ribs taste like, and this stuff is like dog food. So they're really nasty people, and their food is not good, and it's extremely expensive. So don't go to Decker Barbecue. So what about food that isn't purportedly American? Well, one of the greatest resources in Singapore is the food center. There's a bunch of food centers. They call them food. I think they call them food courts too. I'm not sure. Hawker centers. They call them. I don't like to call them hawker centers because in America, a hawker is a big ball of mucus that you spit out. So food centers. The two we really liked were the Maxwell Food Center and the Albert Food Center. And they have these little stalls in there, 8-10 feet wide, and each one is a restaurant. They're covered with stainless steel, and they have their own cooking equipment and all that. And the food's really cheap, and you can kill yourself for like $12. And some of it is excellent. Some of it is just top notch. Some is just good. Some is not good at all. Some you wouldn't want to eat. Like we went to a place that served Indian food, and it was disgusting. So here's what you do with the food centers. First of all, when you go to Singapore, take a food tour. It's worth it to go the first day, and make notes about where they take you. But after that, you want to start visiting the food centers. And when you go, just order 5 or 6 entrees because they're so cheap. You might be out $16 or something, and then you find out who has the good food. One thing you want to make sure you avoid is anything recommended by Anthony Bourdain. Anthony Bourdain would have sold his kidney for a nickel. He was completely dishonest, and he recommends places that are disgusting. There's a place that sells a dish called Hainanese chicken, I think it's called, and his picture is, even though he's dead, his picture's on the side of this place, and there's always a big line. And what it is that, like, you take chicken breast with the skin on it and you steam it with maybe some salt, and it's this limp, lukewarm thing, and they put it on some rice that has like the sauce on it, which is basically like Campbell's chicken noodle soup without the noodles. And it's gross. I mean, it's foul. We went there and we threw it away and ate something else. So don't go there. Only tourists go to this place. All the people you see standing in line, they're not from Singapore. They don't eat there. We started talking to a guy who runs a beverage stall there, the K3 beverage stall. Make sure you go there. And he took us around to some better places. There's one called Aunt Nana's or something. You'll see it. It's something that sounds like Aunt Nana's. It's in the same, more or less the same aisle as the Anthony Bourdain place, I think. Very good laksa. Laksa is this, I think it's Indonesian. It's either Indonesian or Malaysian. Very nice soup that has rice and noodles, and maybe it has rice. I don't remember it. It's got a bunch of stuff in it. I'll put it that way. If you've ever had Vietnamese pho, it's kind of like that, except it's got shrimp in it, it's got sliced pork in it, and you can throw a lot of sauce in it, hot sauce, and it's nice. So there's a number of nice places in there. There's a place called Happy Food or Happy Family Food or something like that, and it's Chinese food, and it's kind of similar to American style Chinese food, which I'm going to be honest is much better than Chinese style Chinese food. Actual Chinese food, we tried it, and it's gross. I mean, it's hard to believe they can eat it. So we did find Chinese food we liked. There's a place called Din Tai Fung, and I think it's out of Taiwan. It's a chain. I think they have some in America now. And there's 2 Din Tai Fungs that I know of. One is in a place called Raffles City, which is the mall where our hotel was next to this mall. And there's another one in a place called the Suntec Center, or maybe it's Suntec City. Anyway, it's a big place, 5 minutes away on foot. Nice walk. And they had absolutely fantastic Chinese food. And their iced tea was amazing. Ever since I've been home, I've been trying to duplicate their iced tea. They had iced Earl Grey tea, which is so strong it was almost black. And they floated a big chunk of ice in it instead of ice cubes. They had this gigantic chunk of ice, and it was really sweet. And they had lemon. And I've been buying various types of Earl Grey tea, trying to find something that compares, and it can't. So the Suntec the Din Tai Fung in Raffles City is very busy. Just don't go there. Don't bother. Go to the other one. Otherwise, you're going to end up waiting in line and get exactly the same food. Indian food. Apart from the place in the food center, we never had any bad Indian food in Singapore. It was all very good. The question really is how much you want to pay for it. So there's a place in the Raffles City Mall. It's called like Shahamani something or other. It's the only place in the Raffles City Mall. That's how you can find it. And it's a little bit on the high end side. Food was fantastic. Nice atmosphere, relatively elegant. There's another relatively high-end place called the Anglo-Indian Cafe across the street at a place called Chimes, Chimes. You'll know it when you see it because it'll say Chimes on the side. It's got a bunch of restaurants in it. So Anglo-Indian Cafe, kind of similar, kind of outdoors, it's sort of between indoor and outdoor, and the food there was great, but on the expensive side. We found a place called Heritage One, which is a bar and restaurant, and it's a little bit on the grimy low end side, but the people were fantastic. They opened up. We showed up in the middle of the afternoon when they're not even open, and they opened the restaurant and cooked for us, and it was very, very good. It's so good we went back there on our second trip to Singapore. And the final place that we went to was a place called, I hate to say this name, the name is Kamala. I hate that name because it's like bringing something up in your throat, and it reminds me of bad political choices. But Kamala, food there was very nice. I'm trying to think if there's any other kind of food that we had that you would be interested in. Oh, let's see. We tried Jollibee, which is a Filipino chain, and they sell stuff like spaghetti that's kind of like SpaghettiOs and really bad fried chicken, and it's disgusting. Don't go to Jollibee. I don't know how people can eat it. It's vile. Let's see. Anything else? We were not really that impressed with the Malay food and the Indonesian food. It looks really good, but then when you eat it, it's kind of bland. Even on the food tour where they took us to places that were supposed to be very good, it was not that exciting. So these are the places that I mentioned that were good. They're a sure thing. So if you're only in Singapore for a short time, you can go to those places and you'll be fine. If you're there for longer, obviously you can experiment and enjoy yourself. Oh, one place to stay away from, another Anthony Bourdain landmine. It's a Chinese place called Kang Eng Kee. It's supposed to be Chinese, but Chinese people have been in Singapore for a very long time, so maybe the stuff they serve is more peculiar to Singapore. I've never seen it in Chinese restaurants. It used to be a food stall in a court, in a food center. And they were so successful, they became a restaurant, and now it's this kind of cheesy outdoor restaurant. So we went to this place, and they tried to sit us right beside the lady who was yelling and seating people, the little pulpit, and we insisted on a better table. And they put us to this place, and what they sell a couple of things. They sell a couple of crab dishes. One is called chili crab, and I forget what the other one's called. One is red and the other one's black. We had the chili crab. It's supposed to be their signature dish, and it looks great in a picture. It looks like this big crab, this gigantic crab covered with beautiful sauce. And it's nothing like the picture. What they do is they take hundreds of crabs and they boil them in a big pot with this sauce that tastes very much like the juice from SpaghettiOs, except it's a little spicier. That's really what it tastes like, except it also tastes burned. And then when you order a crab, they charge you $95 for 1 kilogram of crab, which sounds it sounds terrible, but you say, well, 2.5 pounds, I should be able to get a lot of food out of this. But when it comes, almost all of it is crab shell and tiny little bits of meat inside a giant pool of this red stuff. I think they weigh the red stuff. I think that's part of the kilogram. So that was disgusting. They had something called coffee ribs. They have these little tiny things which aren't really ribs. I guess it's bits of pork shoulder. I don't know. They deep fry it in some kind of batter, and it's black and it's flavored with this coffee sauce, and it's lukewarm. And it's okay, you can eat it, but I wouldn't go back. They had some kind of shrimp thing that sounded wonderful on the menu, some kind of little appetizer. It's been so long I can't remember what it was. Anyway, it cost us a fortune to get out of that place. like 150 American dollars or something. And the food was gross. It was nasty. And there was Anthony Bourdain. I could hear him in the back of my mind taunting me and saying, "You sucker! You fell for me. You fell for my garbage again." So Anthony Bourdain goes to Waffle House and raves about it. Used to before he was dead, obviously, but he used to go to Waffle House and talk about how wonderful it was. Have you ever been to Waffle House? Some comedian described it as a men's room that also sells waffles. So that seems pretty accurate to me. So never trust Anthony Bourdain. He was a horrible con artist, in my opinion. So I guess that's it. If you want to have fun. Also food, when it comes to groceries and stuff like that. If you go to Raffle City, they have some nice high-end groceries. They have a place called Cold Storage. I think it's CS Fresh, Cold Storage Fresh. Apparently some British person brought refrigeration to Singapore, and they thought that was a big deal, so they named the place Cold Storage many years ago. And there's another one called Marks and Spencer, which is kind of nice. And the produce is very nice. The produce, it seems like Asians are really, really good at growing fruits and vegetables, at least compared to Americans. So I guess that's about it. I hope this is useful to you. And if I come back, I'll talk about something else. Excuse me. If I come back, I'll talk about something else.